Welcome back, everyone. Craig and
Welcome.
Leah here today. How are you today, Leah?
Good. How are you, Craig?
Good. Little different format here today.
Mm-hmm.
The last time we recorded, we tried to use a local restaurant, and turns out number one, didn't have Wi-Fi, and there was just a lot of background noise.
Mm-hmm.
Back to my very, I guess, unelegant office. Maybe we'll move to a different location, but for today, we're recording here. Okay. So, what do you got up for us today?
So, today we wanted to talk about how you've been working on getting your CDL and your CDL permit. So, the
Vroom,
first
vroom.
thing, yes, vroom, vroom, screech. Hopefully, no screeches. So, first, for our listeners and our viewers, can you lay out the process for us of how you get your commercial driver's license or CDL?
Sure. So CDL, commercial driver's license, most people probably know what that means. So that is typically required for most vehicles if they're over, I think it gets over 26,000 pounds. There are lots of exceptions. If you are a farmer, typically farming has the biggest exception where they're allowed to drive big vehicles, including semis, without a CDL as long as they're doing it for themselves, and RVs, so big motorhomes and stuff like that. There's exemptions for that. Now, whether they should be exempt or not is another question, but typically you can drive either as a farmer or as an RV owner, and there might be some other exceptions with just a Class D license, which is what most of us probably have. Class D license just allows you to drive cars and trucks and things like that. So once it gets to a certain size, certain weight, and there's other different factors into it, school buses and things like that, you typically have to have a commercial driver's license. There are different categories. There's two main categories of a commercial driver's license. There is a Class A and a Class B.
Mm-hmm.
Class B allows you to drive what I would describe as a straight truck, dump truck, maybe like a big moving truck, things like that. Basically, trucks that don't articulate in the middle is a Class
Mm-hmm.
B. Buses, you may only need a Class B. If you want to drive semis, so the tractor trailer, you have to have a Class A. And if you have a Class A, you can drive Class B vehicles, but if you have a Class B, you can't drive Class A's. And then there's all kinds of other things. If you are going to drive a manual transmission as opposed to an automatic, you got to get tested and certified for that. Air brakes, and then if you're going to haul like hazardous things, tanker trucks, there's different sets of rules. Buses,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of the big picture. So
Mm-hmm.
to get your commercial driver's license, you first get a permit, kind of like when we got our own regular driver's license. You get a permit. You get your permit by, first of all, you have to get a medical card. Not sure it'd be required if you were just going to drive within one state. If you're going to do any kind of interstate driving, so from one state to another, you have to have what's called a Fed Med card. So you go down and they give you a physical. They're testing the big things they're testing is like blood pressure. Are you someone that's likely to have a stroke or heart attack when you're on the road? Vision, hearing. And the one thing that was kind of surprised me and was relevant to me was if you have any kind of sleeping disorder. I was diagnosed this year with sleep apnea, kind of known I've had it for a long time. And so if they have concerns that you might fall asleep at the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
that could pose a problem. So you have to go through this initial screening. There's certain certified doctors around that do the initial physical, give you a Fed Med card. It's usually good for either 1 to 2 years. Mine was one because of the sleep apnea, and I'm on some heart medication. So you get that, and then you go and you take a written exam. Depending on the type of license that you want to get, if you are going to drive air brakes, if you're going to drive bus, there's different exams. So for me, to get my Class A permit, I had to pass a general knowledge test, which I think everyone does. There was a separate test for air brakes. So if you're never going to drive air brakes, you wouldn't have to take that exam. But again, I think it's good to get the highest level license you can so you can drive vehicles that don't have all that. So there was an air brakes test and a articulating vehicle test. There's special rules if you have trailers you're hauling. So those three exams, I took those exams, I passed the exams, and then they give you a permit. And the permit I think is good for like 6 months. And then you can actually start driving school. You can start driving with I don't know if they have to be a certified instructor, or if it's just someone with a commercial license, but you can actually start going on the road, getting experience as long as you're with someone that has a license. And then it's just a matter of getting getting the knowledge and experience to prepare you to take the examination to actually get your commercial driver's license, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm in the classes. There's three major components to the test to get your commercial driver's license. Let's just talk about like a tractor trailer, okay, which is what I'm doing for Class A. So you have to pass a pre-trip inspection. So you have to be able to show before you drive your vehicle, you have to go through all of the components of it. You're checking the electronics, you're checking mirrors, you're checking tires, the motor, the brakes, lights, reflectors, all that kind of stuff. So that's one. Got to be able to show you can do that. The second is a series of maneuvers, pulling forward, backing up, turning, and then backing into kind of a blind spot. There's four of those tests. I was actually working on those yesterday with my instructor. And then the third one, and you have to pass all three, is the actual road test. You go out with an instructor. They take you through the countryside or city, wherever you're at, and you try not to make too many mistakes while you're driving. Pass all three of those, and then you get your commercial license.
Does it work like a regular driver's license where you get points on your exam? How many points off determines if you get your CDL or not?
Correct. Yeah, you're allowed to miss a certain number. So like yesterday, we've been doing the pre-trip. So I did a pre-trip with my instructor, and I made a couple of mistakes, but he said you did well enough that you would have passed it on the day of. So there's certain levels of mistakes you can make. There are certain things that you, let's see, like on the backing maneuvers, I believe there are certain ones like you have to pass. And like if you are during the road test, there's certain things like if you get into an accident, if you stall your vehicle, actually. I know a couple people who stall their vehicle during the road tests, and that's an automatic fail. So it depends on the nature of it.
Yeah. I recall in a previous episode you were talking about passing your permit tests. Do you remember how your son did on those, or can you tell us your results?
One of my sons, he graduated high school this year, and he got his CDL just before me. He started just before me. He went through the same process. He had to take the written test a few times. That's as much as I'll say about that. But I didn't see him studying a lot, mostly because I didn't want to take the time to go hang out at the DMV more than once. So I studied. I like using AI, so I uploaded the commercial driver's manual to an AI program, and then it spit out an audio podcast.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, I used, I think it was Notebook LM. It's one of my favorite AI programs. So you can upload the 200-page manual and say, give me a detailed breakdown of everything I need to know for the air brakes exam. And it did. And it didn't have everything, but it had a lot of it. And you start to learn some of the major terms, especially on specific numbers that you need to know. Like you need to know your governor cutoff needs to be before like 140 PSI. You need to know that
What's a governor?
What's a governor?
Yeah.
Okay, so air brakes. So one of the biggest differences about commercial vehicles versus what we're used to is their brake systems are driven by air, whereas for most of us, they're driven by hydraulic pressure. Okay. There's a few reasons for that, but so you have an air brake system, and so you actually have an air compressor on the motor that's pumping up air, and you have air when you push the brakes. It's actually pushing air through the lines that's closing the brakes, right? And there's air like your cab. You might have an air ride cab. Your seat might go up and down with air. The back of the tractor actually goes up and down with air suspension. So air is a major component of most trucks, semi-trailers, or semi-tractor trailers, as well as straight trucks. And so what it does is the governor cutout says once it's full, turns off the air compressor so it doesn't just keep inflating a blow up. Okay, so it's one of the safety features. It's one of the things that you test during the pre-trip is you make sure that it stops at 140 psi, right? And then as you drop pressure, there are certain alarms. So if you develop an air leak when you're driving, there are alarms that go off around 55 to 70 psi. So if it drops down to 55 to 70 psi, you start to get alarms, and that's your cue to pull over. And probably the most notable thing about an air brake system is the default, if you will, on an air brake system is the brakes are applied. Okay, and there's actually huge springs in the brake chambers that pushes the brakes against the wheel, so that if you lose air pressure, those springs are actually pushing the brakes onto the wheels, and it actually takes air pressure to release the springs, right? So you don't actually set the brakes. The brakes are automatically set, and it takes air pressure to release the brakes. Once you drop down even further, if you get down to between 20 and 45 psi, those springs will automatically push out. So if you're still moving and you go down, it will lock up all the wheels on your truck. The idea being is if you should suffer a serious air malfunction, you don't want to lose your brakes, right? So the air is actually used to release the brakes as much as it is to apply the brakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this episode's getting technical, everybody.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's all stuff I'm studying every day just so that I can get through the test, which will probably be in the next couple of weeks.
yeah. What I'm thinking to myself is that he's convincing me. Hopefully that's enough.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what step of the process that you are at now? I think you started to talk about it, but...
Yeah. So I got my permit. I'm probably 2 months into the permit. So I've got up to 6 months from the permit before it expires. So I've passed the permit and got my med card, and I'm in the middle of driving school. I have up to 30 hours. I've probably driven 12. It's not all driving. Some of it is, like I said, learning how to inspect your vehicle. And then some of it is like yesterday, all I did yesterday was just driving and backing around cones on the parking lot at the school. So I'm about a third or halfway through probably. So I actually drove the first day. It kind of freaked me out. So we did the pre-trip, and he's like, "You want to drive?" I'm like, "Okay." I thought we were just going to drive on the driveway. No, we got out on the road, drove right down through town. And I was like, he's kind of teaching me as we go. Probably the hardest thing about it is it's an 18-speed transmission, which I've driven stick shifts plenty, but it's a non-synchronized transmission, and you got to learn to double clutch, which is not anything anyone ever does. And that's weird. And because it's non-synchronized, you have to like adjust the RPMs to match it before it'll shift. So starting out, so what kind of the progress is you learn to do a pre-trip, you start to learn to drive, start to learn how to shift, both shifting up as you get faster and then shifting down as you go slower. So I'm getting much, much better there. I've been on the road 3 or 4 times now. And then like I said, and I've kind of got the pre-trip mastered because we do that every time. So that's one of the components. And then yesterday we did just backing maneuvers. So like I said, that was the second of the 3 tests. And by the end of that, I was doing well enough that I would pass that part of the exam. So I'm kind of 2/3 of the way there, the pre-trip and the backing. And now it's just getting more and more comfortable driving out on the road, being able to slow down, watching road signs and things like that, being able to make turns. You know, that's probably the hardest thing is making turns because you need a lot more space to make turns. You don't run over cars and pedestrians and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to not be able to represent people because you're the one doing it.
Yeah, I don't want to get my license taken away before I get it.
So, can you remind us why you're getting your CDL now?
Oh, yeah. So initially the reason I got the CDL is because I bought a school bus. So for those that don't know, I have a large family. We have 9 kids. So everyone's familiar with school buses, okay? Most cities, most school districts, once they get to a certain age or miles, I don't remember what it is. It's a certain number of years, certain number of miles, they tend to replace them.
Yep.
And then you can buy them really cheap, like weirdly cheap, like $4,000 or $5,000, right? So we have been looking, and then what people do typically is they will take an old school bus, take out all the seats, and then add like a bathroom and beds and stuff like that. And then we call those schoolies. Well, there's a whole internet world of schoolies, right? People traveling around. A lot of people live in them full time, so you can do that. And so we bought it, but it's 40 feet long and it has air brakes, and I never used air brakes. And even though I wouldn't technically have to have a commercial driver's license to drive it, I wanted to be safe enough with hauling my kids as well as sharing the road with other people that I'm going to get my commercial driver's license anyway. So that was sort of what started me on the road. And then as I have been doing more trucking cases and am planning to do more trucking cases, it seemed like a natural fit because I was already learning so much anyway. I was spending a lot of time in the driver's manual. So I decided, heck, I'm just going to go get my license. So that was kind of a twofold purpose. Yeah.
Nice. Personal and professional come together.
That's right.
Love that. Can you share what your greatest challenge has been so far in this process?
Yeah, I suppose time. So making time to study. Like I said, the commercial driver's manual is like 200 pages. It's a lot of facts, a lot of details, a lot of terms. So just like having the time to kind of memorize that stuff. Like I said, it's helped me because I've converted a lot of it to audio, and I just listened to it in the car. And then I made study guides. Without that, it would have been hard if I was just like sitting down reading the book. But I would say the hardest part has been learning how to drive an 18 speed because there's just certain very different, very real differences between driving a regular car pickup with a stick shift and driving an 18 speed. So learning how to upshift and downshift, especially learning how to downshift has been the biggest challenge. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah. Most of us probably don't know how to use a manual transmission anymore.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have kind of grown up with it, and I still have one. I still have an old pickup that's a manual transmission. Probably the biggest benefit to a semi, at least, is you really don't have to like give it gas. You just kind of let out the clutch. It's got enough torque to get you going. But, being able to shift between gears fast enough and doing the double clutching is definitely been the hardest part for me. But I'm close. I'm just about there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any surprises that you've encountered?
It was not as hard as I thought it would be. The actual driving, I mean, it's big, and the roads feel really small, and the lanes seem really narrow. Other than the shifting part, like if it was, let's say it was an automatic, like my school bus is an automatic.
School buses?
Yeah.
Automatic? Oh.
Yeah, a lot of them are. More and more, I think most school buses are automatics. So it actually isn't that hard, Now I haven't driven through a big town yet, but we've driven a lot of roads up and down using the Jake brake and stuff like that has been kind of fun. So
Jake brake?
Oh yeah, Jake brake or the engine brake. So if you ever hear truck comes up, oh sorry, that sound.
Yes, yeah.
So that's an engine brake or a Jake brake. That is I don't know if I know the mechanics of it very well, but it's some dampeners, if you will, inside the engine that use compression to slow down so that you don't have to use your brakes for everything. That's kind of one of the hard. It's a big vehicle. If you're using your brakes all the time to slow down, your brakes will burn out right away. So you actually use the Jake brake or the compression in the engine to start slowing you down and get you ready to shift. So yeah.
I'll have to research more.
Yeah, we live on a highway that has a main S curve, and there's always trucks going back and forth hauling corn silage and hay silage. And the one guy goes by, uses a Jake brake every time he goes by our place. And my wife freaks out because she's like, "Man, I hope the kids aren't out there." But
so my last question for you is: has your law degree helped you at all in getting your CDL?
A little bit, because I've handled a number of trucking cases, and have spent time studying the commercial driver's manual. And especially federal regulation. So much of trucking is all based on federal regulations. It's the FMCA, Federal Motor Carrier Act, I think. I've dealt with a number of those already in past cases that I handled that a lot of this stuff kind of made sense, actually. So I would say that helped me. That probably helped me quite a bit. And probably just the ability to memorize stuff and take tests. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to shout out your driving school at all in the video?
Yeah, sure. Maybe they don't want my endorsement. Yeah, it's ready to ride. I think it's Ready to Ride Trucking. They're a newer
number 2 or 2 T-O?
Ready, the number 2 ride. We'll put a link in the description. So if you're in the western Wisconsin area, great school. It's one-on-one. When I do it, it's just me one-on-one with the instructor.
Nice.
And you had to use their truck and trailer, and then use that truck and trailer for the actual examination. So,
nice.
So yeah, I'll link in the description. Highly recommend them. They're great guys, very flexible. So yeah.
Yeah, and my last question. So does your CDL apply in all of the states that you're licensed to practice law in? Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin?
Yes. Yeah, right. So with a commercial driver's license, you can drive, I believe, anywhere in the country.
It's federally recognized, this type of license?
Correct. Correct. And because I got my Fed Med card, so I basically done everything I need to do to qualify to drive in any state if I wanted to. The caveat being is I would have to learn the hours of service regulations, which don't really apply if you're just driving locally. But yeah, I could in theory, if I buy my own semi, I could where I want, I guess.
Nice. I guess the CDL is your oyster, I guess.
That's right.
That's all my questions for today, other than a list of things to Google now.
Yeah.
But Craig, is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
I don't think so. I'm hoping to be ready to test in a couple of weeks. I want to make sure I'm ready to test. Fortunately, if you pass one or two of the tests, but not a third one, you don't have to take them all again. You
Oh,
just have to
nice.
take the one you failed. So hopefully have that in a couple of weeks. And then I'm still hoping to, I've only been driving a tractor trailer. I'm hoping to get some time in a dump truck.
Oh, fun.
And then probably once I get through this, I'm going to probably go ahead and get my school bus endorsement anyway, just to get a train just for the school buses. Even though I won't be hauling kids other than my own on our bus, I'll
Yeah.
probably get that as well, just because why not?
Yeah, exactly. You're already doing all the rest.
Yep.
So,
Yep. All right.
yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. If anyone has questions about any of that or comments, feel free to leave a comment below, or my contact information is below. If you have a question, if you have a legal question about a particular case, don't leave a comment. Just go down and call or text, send an email. That's all in the description below. Yeah, we'll appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you guys hopefully next week. Okay.
Yep. See you next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.